Right, it's 7 o'clock according to my computer. And we tend to believe everything we read on the computer, don't we? So, good evening everybody, welcome to the Sandwich Town Council Finance and General Purposes Committee here on Wednesday the 15th of October.
It's supposed to come on, but doesn't seem.
No.
What's it? What's that?
No screen on that.
Okay. Looks as if I may have not set it up properly, so my apologies.
It still says upcoming.
Huh?
It says upcoming still.
Upcoming.
Yeah,
Five. Yes.
Well, let me crack on anyway. If it comes live, it comes live.
Do you want anyone to?
Yeah, we're just going to
Okay.
come to that. So this is a bit of an unusual meeting because the town clerk would normally be here to take the notes, but unfortunately she has COVID. So I'd be grateful if somebody would volunteer to take some notes. I've printed all of the documents off and I'm intending to scratch on those with some notes, so if anybody would like to volunteer to help with the minutes, that would be appreciated.
I have a pad. If someone wants to take a pad, because I'll need to.
Councillor Wiles has agreed.
Do you want me to take a pad? Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence received, and I believe we've got apologies from Councillor Danielle Carter. Councillor Paul Carter may be late, but may not turn up, and Councillor Anderson has got a previous engagement. Councillor Danielle Carter is unwell. Okay. The next item is declarations of interest for those councillors around the table to advise if they've got any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of the business to be transacted on the agenda. Are there any such declarations? That's a no. Okay, the next item is the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee held on the 17th of September. Now, I wasn't present at this meeting, and we have the Mayor, who was the chair of the meeting. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes as circulated?
Happy to propose that we accept them.
Okay, anybody happy to second that? Okay, so can we have a vote on that, please? I'm going to abstain as I wasn't here, not that I don't trust you. But, so that is carried 5-1. Councillor Chuka, could I ask you to sign the minutes, given that you were
I would love to.
the chair of that meeting, please? Yeah, pass them over here.
Just get some voting cards.
Very much. The next item on the agenda, which is for public participation. I've checked with the town clerk and she's advised me that there has been no requests to participate in tonight's meeting from any member of the public. So let's move on to agenda item 5, which is the payment schedules and finance reports. Now, unfortunately, these documents weren't published and are not available at the moment because of the illness of the RFO and some problems with compiling them. So the first 5 attachments, A, B, C, D and E, sorry, A, B, C and D4, are not available. They will be made available and published in due course, and as ever will be approved by the full council. Item 5E and 5F relates to nominating signatories, initially for the mid-November payment on Bankline, and secondly for the end of November payment on Bankline. Now, have we got any signatories in the room? 2, 3. Okay,
Do you want?
we need 2 for each run. Or
I'm happy to do both
Both.
runs as one.
right. Councillor Wiles, Councillor,
Yeah.
you're happy to do both?
I can't at the moment, my laptop's
Okay.
better use of doorstop at the moment than a
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we just approve that the mayor and councillor and the deputy mayor will be approved to do those bank runs if I propose it? Will anybody second it?
Second. That's it, you know, we're not working, we're just going to run.
Happy to go to a general vote on that?
Colin's taking it, Colin's taking it. That's all right.
Okay.
No problem.
Councillor Marie, are you happy with that proposal?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, who proposed? You proposed?
I proposed,
Yeah.
Councillor Pennington second, and I think everybody is voting in favour of it.
Yes.
Can I just say, I do find the time that we take nominating bank people every month to be a bit of a distraction and time consuming thing. I would sooner that we have an approved pool and that the authorised people are drawn from that approved pool, but shouldn't be the same people every month.
I agree. I think it should be part of the general delegation that the town clerk selects people from the pool,
Yeah.
or the finance officer.
I would suggest we need to check the legitimacy of doing that. So at the moment, certainly it's not in the standing orders, and it may be I don't know. It may be a part of the meeting process. So town clerk to investigate, I suppose, and confirm we can do that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to item 6, which is the priorities, status and action log for finance and general purposes. Now, we've actually got quite a bit to go through, so I would ask everybody to try and be succinct and keep to the point. So the first one is the action log, the main action log, which is a table with red items. Everybody's familiar with that?
Yep.
I don't propose that we go through each and every line on it, but are there any general comments? Councillor Chuka.
I was just going to ask as a question rather than a suggestion, but question whether the chair would be willing to sit down with the town clerk and review the actions to consider whether we should close any, because actions become inactions through not doing anything with them.
I hope you haven't been peeping at my notes, because that's what I was going to propose, because some of the dates are kind of in the past now, and some of the actions are duplicated and some of them are
Yes.
completed. So I was going to propose that I will do that.
Brothers by different mothers.
Oh dear, dear. This is going to be a fun meeting, isn't it? Okay, so the next report is from the town clerk, or from the town clerk on this matter. She talks about the report for the HR committee about the allocation of staff. This work is in the HR budget, so that will all come to light in due course. Report on reserves, we're going to discuss tonight. Health and safety of staff, we're going to discuss tonight. And the budget pro forma, we're going to discuss tonight. So if I may, if we can move on then to, that includes item 6A, the report from the town clerk. Item 6B is from the property manager. And as ever, he's done a sterling job and covered quite a lot of ground, because he's got a report on Boatman's Chapel, he's got a report on Fishergate, he's got a report on the Expenditure programme,
Yes.
and he's got a report on, what else have you got there? And health and safety, and the Guildhall. So, let's start at the very beginning. Let's start with the Boatman's Chapel, which is the first one to come up, and this is really about the legal aspects and getting
That's
the
right.
title.
Yes, exactly. Good evening. So we've had a meeting. This is 2 action logs actually. Please on the first column I put STBF. That isn't correct, but this is for the action log update, as in the subject matter, both relating to Boatman's Chapel. So the situation is, I've been to see the solicitor. I took the land certificate with me, and to change the property over into the correct name, it's currently still in DDC's name, that's my recommendation. We changed the name, so we've got it in the correct, it's in the correct name, but we've still got the situation with this covenant. The covenant is restricting the use just to be a chapel. I've sent so many emails to DDC, and the last email I got back saying, oh yes, as a tenant we will look at you having a change of use. So totally different angle, but that aside, I think we can tackle that at a later date. But let's get the legal title changed, and at the same time, the solicitor will write to DDC about the covenant. I've shown the solicitor the covenant. That could well get things moving by coming from the solicitor to DDC. And I'm not asking for it to be done this year. I'm talking about the next financial year, and the cost will be estimated at £1,000.
Okay, any thoughts, comments from around the table?
Might I just ask, what do we change? The covenant purely restricts us to using it as a chapel.
Yes.
What kind of usage would we want in changing the covenant? Would we still be prescribed into certain activities?
No, I would say no. We remove that, so it gives us that flexibility.
Right.
So we can use it as an art studio, pottery, storage. We've got multiple uses. Florists, we'd be flexible.
Okay, well, if I may then just sorry, Councillor Pennington.
Yes, thank you. I wondered, is there any definition of what a chapel can be used for?
It just says really basically in its current format, which would be a chapel. So it wouldn't allow you to do, any of the other things that I've said, because that would sit outside of that use.
I mean, thinking about silent discos in Rochester.
Yes, and in Canterbury apparently. Yes. Yeah. So that would be So at the moment it's restricted to the use of a chapel.
And is it a listed building?
It's not, I don't believe it's listed. No, I don't believe it's listed.
Okay, 2 comments from me. On one hand, I think it would be good to go ahead with this proposal and spend £1,000 in the legal fee and get it changed over. And the other side is, with the impending local government reorganisation, we may have a number of assets going through this process, so it might be easier to group the Boatman's Chapel with that. But at the same time, I do feel that if we went through this process, we would get through the learning curve and the precedent and everything of doing it. So, and the balance in my mind is that we should press ahead with the proposal.
If I may quickly, sorry.
Yeah, well, Councillor Duca.
So I think you sort of hit a nail on the head in the sense of so you talked about this being a next year cost. If I look at it objectively in terms of the various strands are going to come on to other lists of monies, a number of which are in next year. I think as a parish council with a limited budget, we have to be very careful when I look at also bids alongside this from individual councillors. We have to be very realistic about what we would see as sensible expenditure. And I put existing assets that are incorrectly assigned somewhere near the top, so I'm not diminishing this request. But I think we have to look at this when we look at it in the round on the 15th of November, the next meeting. So rather than setting us up in certain things ahead of that discussion, we should agree in principle to this, but the actual financial commitment for next year has to be part of a wider discussion, because I look on here and just, if I had a calculator of what you've suggested, alongside what I know already has come from elsewhere, we will be challenged about the budget for next year, and I don't think we can meet all the commitments that people are suggesting we should. But that's my personal.
Okay, Councillor Wise.
I think this has been going on a long time. Part of the property manager's remit is to get the best possible return on assets.
Yeah.
This is an asset which is not earning anything at the moment.
Yes.
It's worth investing this £1,000
Absolutely.
to try and get maybe 10 or 5 at least a year from an alternative use. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. We need to crack on with it.
Councillor Pennington.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Councillor Chuka. I'm not quite sure how it will look to citizens of Sandwich to say we spent £1,000 just on a legal issue that might well be questioned in a few months' time. But
Yeah, but the bigger issue is a property standing empty.
well,
Zero
you
rating.
say it's a bigger issue. Sorry, you had your say.
Can I respond?
Yeah,
This is not an asset transfer from DDC.
No.
This is a property which it's in the name, I've got the land certificate in the name of STC, which is correct. But it was never registered, never transferred over.
Yeah.
It's still shown as DDC on land registry. So that's the reason why we want to change it over. We don't start changing these properties over. What we do? We can't go forward. I mean, we may better get some grant funding, but we can't all the while it's in the wrong, it's not registered in the correct name.
Okay.
Well, is it on DDC's asset register?
No, it's not.
No,
It's
it's
definitely,
No.
so it's definitely, alright, this is slightly different for somebody
It
else,
is.
and I
Yeah.
appreciate the point that you're making.
Yeah, we'll come back on it again.
Yeah.
So the point is, what we shouldn't be doing in this meeting ahead of a in-the-round discussion on the 15th of November, making a commitment for next year's budget. We shouldn't be doing that when this is a flexible expenditure. So we should log and agree that it's a priority, but when we come on the 15th of November, I don't know if it's December, 15th of November, we know this is a priority and somewhere it features towards the top of the list. You've got another long list that we're going to go into which have 26, 27 against a number of the items. We have to do that in a round. We have to. That's the budget setting process. We can't go into that meeting and say, actually, we've earmarked 40,000 and everything else therefore won't be met.
I think the problem with that is that
He's not spending money till next year.
at the moment we're getting no income on this.
That's right.
Yes,
This is an investment to get income
yeah, next year.
next year, but
Yeah, and we're going to have a discussion about the budget for next year.
potentially it's financially neutral. It's beneficial to do this.
It is, yeah.
All right, let's draw it to a conclusion. So really what we're saying in summary, we've got a proposal really in as many words from Councillor Chuka that this should be considered. It is a priority, but it should be considered as part of the general budget for next year.
As a priority.
Yeah, and
I second that.
yeah, are we happy to vote on that then? Okay. Thank you. So that's all.
I think that discussion, Chair, if I could just say, it raises the need for maybe the property manager to have a budget for legal matters, so that he can deal with these things without having to come begging to us.
We are going to be looking at the budget as we move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, mentioned a number of cases.
Which is, as it, the next item then, if we may move on, is about the expenditure on the Guildhall. You've given us this.
I'm on this particular one. This is not the Guildhall. This is STC.
Sorry, STC,
Properties.
STC properties, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So we've got this chart which shows, do you want to take us through that?
Yes, yeah, I think so. So we start off at the top there with the drill hall. We do need to do improvements to the EPC. So I will be getting this year I will be getting one of the EPC consultants to come out and look and say exactly what we need to do to bring it into the correct band. So I mean, I've put these are all estimated costs, but I've put 10,000 until I get the consultant out to look to say exactly what we're going to need to do to bring that band up. I can't say for sure, but that work will need to be completed in 26-27. It's going to be, it's an interesting one as far as you cannot be penalised as a landlord if a tenant decides to put a different sort of heater in, which I believe I've heard that has taken place in the property. So there's an expensive running heater that's in there, so we shouldn't be penalised on that. But I want the consultant to come out, have a look at the EPC, and then produce their recommendations, and that will cover anything that the tenant has added to there. The second line, so that's the compliance. That's compliance driven, the EPC. Then we have the electrical. There was electrical the system. Obviously, I mean, it's an old system, but it did pass its test in 2023. That was carried out by Wyman's. We are responsible for electrical installations on properties.
Sorry, can I just ask, when's the next test due? Is that
5 years, 2028,
Yeah.
But what I have done is I've put estimated cost, I put 2,000 against the electrics in case there was any problems.
Okay.
Okay. Fishergate.
Yeah.
Fishergate is just that property is not registered. Okay. The property is not registered. We need to get that property registered in 26-27. So that's the first line. Black is the legal side. Now the general repairs and maintenance. So what I've done on any property, even if we were not looking to the plan of what we're doing with the potential museum, property of that age, that condition, and knowing what's going to need to be done, we do need to have an allowance there, and £30,000 should be in the pot for that property, regardless of what we could be looking to do. You cannot have that property sitting there without a figure against it. I believe, I haven't had a chance to speak with the IRFO. I think we had 5,000 against it this year. So what I'm saying is that if it going to it and we needed an emergency, repairs to the windows and plaster to the undercroft, which is falling away, and remedial works to the roof and the chimney stack. So that's really what we'll be looking at doing. So I would, or that's what we need to be putting aside, ring fencing it for that. And then if we did need to do that, the emergency work, then we would need to have will there be professionals involved, because they would need to be preparing all the documentation, all the drawings, all the plans, submitting them for approval, etc. So that's where the £3,000 for professional fees would be, and I'll come on to the next one is £3,000 for report, which is needed for the grant funding application, which will make sense when we come on to my second piece of paper. The chapel we've covered. I put £1,000 for the legals, which is in black, and general repairs and maintenance. I don't know what figure we had this year. I think it was £200 or something against that property. So yeah, we've got to be putting 2,000 on that. I would say £2,000 aside, ring fence that for that particular property. Carol's Meadow, I've put here £600. Allowing for any sort of any maintenance of the gate and perhaps a replacement of the lock, which is something that could happen. It's happened in previous years. So again, not a lot of money, but again, something that we'll be looking to spend. Multiple Nature Reserve. We have got some big ticket items. There are some items that are being processed at the moment. They've all been approved that are going through. But again, I've put £5,000 in the pot for next year, 26-27, in case there was any other items that needed to be dealt with during that period. But I say most of the big ticket items have actually been dealt with at the moment. The 11A and 13 St Peter's Street, again, that land is not registered. So if you wanted to have it registered, then that's roughly what we'd be looking at spending, and about £1,500 for the measured surveys and plans to have that done. But I say that's only if that was on the cards. I don't think that was, wouldn't take priority. Donkey paddock again, repairs to the boundary fence at the front, £500. Got the telephone boxes, I've put £600 on that figure, for the two, and I'm not sure how the person was, things on that side. And the key WCs, we are responsible for those, and I put £3,000, and the boiler in the office there needs replacing, and the hand washing facilities in the toilets are dated and they're sort of temperamental, so we need to put money aside for that.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from around the table?
I just wanted to ask about Monk's Wall. I understand Monk's Wall has quite a lot of money in the bank.
Yes.
Does any of the charge come into STC, or is it all funded from their reserve?
It's all funded from
The reserve.
the Monk's Wall, yeah.
Yeah.
I just put the figure that I think that we will need as the Monk Wall aspect of it, because the other items that were discussed the other evening are going to be going to take place.
Yeah.
But that figure of 5,000 was always shown last year, so I just kept that in for this year.
But that should go to the Monks Walk committee, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, paper to the Monks Walk
Yes.
committee.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Marie.
I've got the council supervisor just doing some
Okay,
sums.
so quick totting up 63,700 next year. Obviously 5,000 discounted out of that because I recognise it was also from reserve. But if you look at our preset, 300,000 roughly, that's a 20% extra on top of salaries, etc. So I'm just again flagging up. We have to look at this in the round. We will have to make some difficult decisions because I know of other things that if you total those up are well above that amount of new costs. We'll find it difficult to go out to the residents and sell, a random 25% increase in resales, even if it's for very valid reasons. So we will have to have a sensible discussion internally first about what priorities are for next year.
Yeah, just looking at, so for instance, Callie's Meadows, the red telephone box and Donkey Paddock, this is a perfect example to have the community caretaker scheme get involved in sorting some of the stuff out and dropping their price down. I mean, you could do that lot in £1,000. That saves you £700 already.
Exactly.
I mean, there's people out there willing to get involved in the community, so why don't we try and promote that a bit more? That's my idea.
Yeah.
It saves the council £700 at least, and the first three that I thought about.
Sorry, I forgot to mention we have free phone boxes. Even though one of them's not very attractive, we do have free phone boxes and we do have a responsibility for that in terms of its maintenance. One of the things that I was going to ask is maybe very cheap to do, we need to put a lock on it. Because we've been using it for advertising the antiques markets. Only for someone to take those posters and bin them.
Yeah.
Because it's not locked.
Okay, any other comments on this proposed schedule of work? And we move on to the next part of the report.
Noted.
Yeah, we note them all. We can note them all at the end.
So will these go into the bidding round for the 15th of November? They need to if you're looking for a commitment from council. Is that yes?
I'm not sure. I mean, one of them is dependent on the Fishergate, the progress on the Fishergate as well. So we wouldn't necessarily need that money if we can get the funding. But I will still put that 30,000 in. Yeah, I will. And if that doesn't go through, then I'm going to rethink. We've got to rethink everything. I think.
Yep.
Definitely. We've got to rethink a lot because we haven't got the money to put into these projects.
I think it's great you've done this.
Yeah.
It's very transparent and it'll help the discussion.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things to look at is how from our assets we can raise the funding to be able to pay for all of the
I said it starts with being able to invest to start with, and then there will be disposals of certain ones, but this is not the place probably to discuss that.
Okay.
I think, Chair, I think it makes the point which I made before, that it's not just about, we can't just spend money when there's no income.
Yes.
We have to look at the return on the assets.
Right.
Fishergate's been empty for how long now?
7 years.
All of that time, we could have had someone in there.
Yeah.
Earning money on a temporary use. So the property manager needs to be allowed to get on and think about how we generate income from these assets. Cowley's Meadow, Boatman's Hill, cinema.
All right, so we talked about Fishergate then. Is the next thing your more detailed paper about the uses of Fishergate?
Sorry, it was just an update really on that side.
Yeah.
So I've applied now, the first stage of applying for the Lottery Heritage Fund. This is for a museum, as we agreed, or as the councillors agreed. So I've given you the initial response from them. They will need what they're looking for. They will need a condition survey carried out. But of course, the flip side of that, we can't have a condition survey until we've done the ripping out, so they can actually see on that side.
And how much is a condition survey going to cost?
I think about £2,500. As a matter of fact, I've covered, that is part of my, I put here 3,000, yeah, about 2,500 to 3,000 on that side. So they've asked me a number of questions, the Heritage Fund, have I had a conversation with Historic England, and they just asked me a few questions. They're also very interested to know about the Heritage Harbour Trust. They want to know what they're going to actually do, what they'll be bringing to the table. So I've passed on that information to the Heritage Harbour Trust, and I have a meeting with them on Friday. So to really give them an update on that side. I've spoken with Historic England, and they are supportive of the work to turn it into a museum, and that's the key to it. They are backing it on that side. But one of the questions by the Heritage is, have you got any other source to be able to get the money? Don't just rely on us. What else have you got? So again, with Historic England, they said they may be able to, although it's not actually, that is not classed as being at risk, they could put us in touch with their partners who may be able to help with some of the cost.
Yeah, great.
So that's where I'm at with that situation. I talk about perhaps a couple of options with the lease, but I don't want to discuss the lease today, because there's no point talking about the lease until we get funding, until we get nowhere with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Miles.
You mentioned in discussion with the Heritage Harbour Trust a figure of 300 per month for the...
We were just talking about a different, there are really like two options. One is that they come in and
have they said a figure they would accept? Or?
No, they haven't said no to that. They wanted to know, until we know what the actual running costs will be.
Are they prepared to make any contribution?
Oh yeah, I mean I think they would, but at this stage, until we actually know what we're going to end up presenting, I mean there will be two options for them. One is where they pay like a service charge, and we have the second floor to be able to let out. We rent the second floor, which pays for the ongoing management and gives us some money, covers the cost. The other option is they take the whole building and they get the revenue from the second floor. I haven't discussed that second option, but there are two options. But at this stage, until we actually get to the point of knowing how much it's going to get cost, and if we're saying we haven't got the 30,000 anyway, I won't be spending much time until I know exactly what we've got. But we've got the support from the museum. We've got someone who will run the museum. We've got a second floor that I know that we can rent out and generate income. If we don't generate income, we're not going to get the money anyway. Because part of that fund is that I've got to show a management plan going forwards, that we have got a means to pay for it, into the future. Yeah. So at this stage, although I'm happy to have, obviously I've had a meeting with them, we'll have a meeting again with them, but really it's what can we do, what funding are we going to be able to achieve? We don't know until we put the condition report in as part of it. I can't do that until we have the rip out work, and which is what we're Yeah, so we need the permission to do that. I filled out, completed all the paperwork. I was hoping that the town clerk was going to send it off. I've sent it because when I was doing this, it was ready to go. And that will go in. So first step, we get approval to do the exploration works. We can fund that. Because we've got volunteers that will do the work. So what I will need over and above that, which won't be in next year's budget, will be this year. In this year's budget, and the RFO has told me the money's there, will be it's basically disposal of the rubbish and to get the expert to sign off and take the photographs of the work that's been done. I've already got all the plans that I needed, everything is in place. Once that's done, the work's done, we get someone in to check what the condition is, and then we can prepare a full application to the Heritage Fund and other obviously grant funders as well.
So in terms of the 30,000, if you go back to the previous spreadsheet, is that to get Fishergate up to a condition that it can then be occupied?
No, nowhere near. No, nowhere near. That's an emergency money if whatever happens, if we needed emergency money, if only the window fell out or it got worse. Oh no, it will be hundreds of thousands.
Right.
No,
So that only causes me more concern in the sense that we have some organisation that wants to occupy it. It needs to be taken up to a standard of ability to be occupied.
that's right.
But then there's also, and whilst the running costs might fall to that organisation, there's also a liability on us as owners in terms of the external repairs that will occur over time. So,
yeah, but the money to do the property is grant funded. If it's not grant funded, it's not going to happen. Put it on the market and sell it. Let's not have it. Yeah. So it's grant funded money. How much it is to get it right. That will include a lot of the external. It will include the external work to the fabric. But of course, there's going to be ongoing, like there is any other property, which will be covered through the rental income from the second floor or from their rent. If we can't do that, we wouldn't get the grant funding anyway. And if we're worried about not getting enough money to do the outside, then we shouldn't even be starting it.
And once it's been refurbished, then the ongoing cost should be minimal.
Well, yes,
The ongoing repair cost should be minimal.
it's a huge amount of work that's being done will be done to the exterior. It's not what I initially talked about, which was doing a refurb inside for about 90 and then leaving the outside and trying to do it. It's doing the whole, the whole package.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to express my thanks for this report. I think it's absolutely right to pursue other funding options. I think this is something that maybe the council has been a bit slow to take up on in previous years. I think I feel comfortable with the strategy that's being adopted, and I look forward to further progress when we can get the first phase completed.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else got any comments?
Well, I think the question for us, we agreed in principle a while ago that we talked to the Heritage Trust. Let's assume we get all the money for the capital works, the refurbishment. But if we're running this building at a loss longer term, we have to decide if that's the right thing to do for the people of Stanley.
So the idea is that they would have an opportunity if they want to run it as a museum. If they don't run it, we're not holding them to run it as a museum. If they don't, we have to do a museum to get the funding.
Yeah.
We can't do it under holiday lets, otherwise I would have done that. So I have to have some form of museum there and visitor centre, then the upstairs that we can let.
Yeah.
So we're always going to be able to let the property, that's not a problem, but it's going to have to be on the basis of having a museum and then auxiliary room upstairs as a meeting room.
What do you think the annual running cost would be of that building?
I think about 5,500
a year.
Yeah.
So we need 6 or more
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
it work.
Yeah, and we know we know that we're going to have a demand for the rental of the space upstairs on the second floor.
But just so that I'm clear in my mind, having the Harbour Trust interested in the building is an essential part of the management plan, which will fund the application for grants to restore the building. So it's in our best interest to maintain dialogue with the Harbour Trust, even though it may be several years yet before we're actually in a position to lease the building out.
It would be quicker. It would be quicker than that. Yeah, quicker than that. They're interested in knowing more about them because obviously I mentioned about the Harbour Trust, so they're interested in knowing more about them. But if we didn't agree with terms with them, we can go ahead on the basis that we've already got our museum here. We've got a track record, and we perform very well as a museum. So we can still go down the road without having to have them if it came to it.
Okay.
Chair, could I? In any running costs, you need to build in a sinking fund.
That's fine.
Because every 20, 30
Yeah.
years you can have major expenditure,
Yes.
roof replacement or whatever.
Yeah.
So that needs to be factored into the
Yes. Yes.
annual income.
Which is what they want to see as well.
Yeah,
So I have one question. So if we don't get the lottery funding, will the Heritage Harbour still want to go in there?
No.
Exactly. So my opinion would be, if that's the case, sell the property. It's been empty for the past 7, 8 years. It's useless. It's a white elephant. Sorry, I'll bring that word in again in the town. But it's been a white elephant since the council bought it years ago. And we've got too many buildings that are not being used within this council, where other buildings are flourishing, like the Jubilee Centre and others. I just think we're wasting money on buildings that are empty when we could just sell them. My opinion.
The Landmark Trust might be interested.
No, they're not. No, they've already done it.
Definitely said no.
No, 100%. Yeah, in writing. Yeah.
Okay, let's draw this to a close. We're asked to note the report, and he's going to Julian going to update us in due course. As ever, I think there's a great amount of work gone into all of this, and a great amount of thought, and a great amount of personal commitment. And I know you're itching to get the work done and to move forward. And you know, there is a lot of support around the table for the work that you're doing, Julian. So thank you very much. Everybody happy to note the report?
I'm happy to second what you noted.
Okay, so that's all on the, and that's this report and all of the other things that he said about the property. Now if we can move on to the health and safety compliance, please,
Yes.
Julian.
Yes, of course, Councillor Breen. I believe that, please correct me if I'm wrong, that there's been information that's been sent from the previous town clerk updating on various points relating to health and safety compliance. But I've done my own report, so I guess it could be, read in with anything that was provided by the former town clerk. So just covering some points here. Health and safety, obviously we had a fire risk assessment that's been completed. There's some work that we still need to complete. One is the double doors from the back of the courtroom leading outside that are padlocked. Sometimes it shouldn't be padlocked, so we need to get that off and get a proper, get that sorted with a paddle. So you push the button and out you go. And also the fire training also needs to be done. So there are 2 points. As I put here, you can just do the basics of a fire risk assessment. The juice is you don't actually end up with, and you just try to tick the boxes, but you don't do any more than that. And I've seen there's some areas that we can make improvements. One example is up in the loft area, when you go from the loft into the attic space here, it's got just like plasterboard. It should be pink, we put pink, 5/8 plasterboard, 12.5 mil, which is not there. So I would be looking to do that to make improvements. So if you did get a fire, we can actually, try to stop it coming through. Yeah. And also the kitchen door. There's a couple of doors we'd like to retrofit and improve, just improve the safety. Because the biggest risk in any property is the kitchens, and that's not just in restaurants. So kitchens are your biggest risk. So you want to be able to provide as much protection around in that area. And I just put, really staff awareness. We have got to take responsibility for the health and safety of the building and ourselves as well, and sort of leading by example and regular drills. And also with hires, we've got to make sure that we rather than just pointing out the routes where they should go, that we spend time actually walking down the routes with them, showing them how to exit the building. It's a very important aspect. Now we've done a lot of improvements here. We did some tests on the emergency lighting, they're not working, so that's all been done now and all been fixed. I've put some more fire exit signage up. We make sure that we're looking the store cupboards that, you know, out of laziness I suppose, or we've left open sometimes. I'm talking more to the staff and making sure they're aware of the health and safety, and also talking to the hirers. And we've also got the walkie-talkies that I know have created a bit of excitement, but they really do work. So that's again something else that we're doing. So yeah, what I'm saying here is that, you know, we have made improvements. We just have to make sure that we get everything right. You know, as far as what we need, the statutory and regulatory responsibilities, they're being met. But we say we just got to really take, you know, we've got to be mindful of our own, what we're doing ourselves. So recently I had a fire alarm company, the fire alarm company we have here, which is called Chubb, a well-known company, and they came out and said, yeah, you need to spend £10,000. And one of the staff signed this like a worksheet. I got this thinking of we'd like to come and do the job. No, you're not. Let's have a look. So I found out what the essential items were, and that's down to just over 1,000. So I'm going to get another company out to look, and I think this highlights one thing, that, you know, these engineers, or so-called engineers now, we've very much we've become salesmen coming out, trying to sell you new systems, new appliances. So we just got to be very mindful so we don't go over the top of what we're spending. But we do have to be mindful of the fact that this building is very old system, and we're going to be ending up spending that money, but hopefully over a period of time, just sort of piecemeal as we need to do the work, we'll do it. So on the compliance side, that we're dealing with, the training again is very important, and level first aid work, level 3 that we need for members of staff, and the fire marshal training. On the fire marshal training, I've got a company, actually, there's a company I've been speaking to, EK Fire Protection, who did the work at the Empire Cinema, and they do bespoke training packages, which I want to do or want the team to do, because rather than just sitting in the classroom where you put the PowerPoint presentation, they will do that, but it will be here, and then we'll go through the whole building. You know, so it can be relevant to here. It's £495, and that's up to 12 people. So we're going to be going ahead with that. And I think it's a good time also, now we've got the new members of staff who are joining, to be able to set out the proper processes now and procedures. Now we've got this new staff. So yeah, I mean, I think my conclusion really is that it is safer here. You know, we are compliant. I hope I'm managing the risk and everything else. But you know, we do have to. We've got to be very vigilant ourselves in promoting awareness and investing in staff training. So I just really like you to just note my report, and I will update you regarding the work that I'm carrying out. This is going to be done in-house. So with the fire doors, we'll be doing the work. I've got the equipment that we need, hinges we can get. So it's going to be very reasonable price-wise, but we're just making some improvements.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Wiles.
Yeah, congratulate Julian on this.
Thank
you. Propose that we note the report.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'd like to add my thanks, and just in terms of fire, we talk about priorities for the council, the protection of this building, but more importantly, the staff within this building has got to be the priority above all other priorities. Yeah. And it's something that you've obviously got in hand, and we're really grateful to you for that.
No, thank you.
Okay, so that leads us next on to, so everybody's happy to receive the report. Thanks. And that brings us to the expenditure programme for the Guildhall.
Oh, yeah. Oh dear. Can I go now?
No.
So, okay, this is the amounts you're looking to allocated. So what I've done, I've obviously taken this year, 25-26, next year, following year, one after, so we've got it over 5 years.
Yeah.
This is one thing to focus in on the immediate, but we have to look at the longer term commitments of retaining this building and maintaining this building, retaining and maintaining it. So I've gone through it. I mean, if we've got time, I can go through the different points, or is there any questions that people have? Having read it, how would you like?
I've read it.
Yeah,
Chair?
I've been down through it line by line. I would just throw it open to the floor for invite comments from other
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
councillors.
Well, it's a kind of wake-up call, isn't it, really? What's the annual income from the Guildhall?
I haven't got that figure.
About 50,000?
Sound like.
I mean, we're talking about nearly 250,000 over 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's not the precept. Can't pay. You know, where's the money coming from?
Okay. Councillor Chuka.
So it's a toll bridge fund that would
Yeah.
pay for this, yes? So hopefully we're discussing it in toll bridge fund rather than here in terms of.
Well, that's the option I gave you, which one?
Yeah.
We can discuss the detail either here in the Tollbridge Fund. I don't see the point in discussing the detail twice, to be frank.
No, that's why I put it, I dropped it in this one, if you wanted to discuss it in this one, or.
It is really Tilbridge.
Yes.
Well, I'm not so sure on that, because I thought the Sandwich Town Council and the toll bridge was joint and severally liable.
Yes.
Yeah, that shows.
And so, you know, I'm very conscious that a part of the land, part of a toll bridge asset was sold off for the doctor's surgery to pay for 150,000 to pay for a central heating upgrade in this building, but it wasn't match funded by Sandwich Town Council. And the reality of this is that in this proposal, or this expenditure program that's been put forward, there's about £20,000 for next year, which in my mind should be split equally between the toll bridge and Sandwich Town Council. That's for this year.
Yes.
That's for this year is 18,000, and for next year it's about 60,000.
Yes.
And that should be split equally between the two organisations that are signed up to this agreement. It's not a toll bridge thing. It's not solely a toll bridge. And if it is, and this kind of brings the question about the relationship between Sandwich Town Council and the toll bridge, which is going to come up later on.
So my point is that taking the expenditure for next year, even taking half of it for STC, and I've got to do we're in the STC part of the evening. We've talked about here just in terms of maintaining assets to a point, not enhancing them necessarily. 100,000 expenditure.
Yeah.
Just flagging that up.
Yeah, I understand.
So I suggest that rather than repeat all of this, let's go through any item of detail on here. There is obviously the issue, some element will be in the Tollbridge Fund, but I think it is a joint one. But I don't see much point in going through the detail in both meetings.
No, Sammy.
Agree.
Right, well, does anybody want to single out any item of detail? Because, you know, we trust Julian here, and when he says it's going to cost 7,500, or replacing cast iron gutters, you know, I know the cost of replacing cast iron gutters.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
for me, concern is replacing the missing roof tiles across the Guildhall building, £10,000. So I'd say double that, because you're going to have scaffolding around the whole building. That's going to cost a fortune. You have the scaffolding around the building.
Yeah, they go up on the
Cherry
cherry
picker.
picker, yeah. But I'm giving, I'm sorry, I mean, I've done enough of them.
What
So,
might be helpful when we come to the budget round is these sort of expenditures. I know why you've allocated them to each year, but it's also then about the risk of not, if you know what I mean. So if you say next year you've got to spend £100, well actually we don't.
So this is the whole point.
We don't spend anything. Things could fall down.
This
so
is it.
there are risks within each of these items. Some of a higher risk than others. So it would be really helpful because we cannot go into a budget round and commit 100,000 on top of another 100,000 that's floating on top of this.
So what I've done is what no one ever probably has done before, which is what you need to see. If I only did 1 year, you'd say, what about the other years?
Yeah, no,
And if I said if I did 2 or 3 years,
Great
but
stuff.
this is, that's why I've broken it down. It's very reasonable, a lot of these costs, for an old building like this. It's very reasonable.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
Are these based on your own survey?
They're based on figures, and also I've spoken to different trades, so
Your
yeah,
vision survey.
yeah. I mean, it's what we, what you're looking to spend. Now, of course, what you have got in here though is that, sorry, I should mention this. For instance, on the gas and hot water, I put £3,000. That's that's a bit less than the annual service charge. So you'd be paying that anyway.
Yeah.
So these are
So
not.
there is certain
We're not
things-
saying an extra 3,000 on
Yeah.
top of
Yeah.
what you normally pay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've already got in when Karen was here, we were talking about repointing. I said, we're going to need to repoint. We're going to need to do some of the guttering. We're going to need to realign this. So that was money that was already put. That money should be there, put aside for the 25, 26.
Yes, we start from scratch for 26, 27.
26, 27, we start from scratch, and of course, yes, you may not want to do all the, that £7,500, but it's not a huge amount for repointing. If you missed it a year, then you've got the situation we've got downstairs, the bricks are falling out.
Yeah.
A lot of people handing me bricks now. What are we going to do?
So this for me, yes, it's a lot of money, but it's because the
Yeah.
work hasn't been
No,
done
yes.
in the last
I know.
years,
No.
so that the expenditure is balanced. So we've got this bow wave of work that needs doing, and yes, if not doing it has consequences. They might not be immediate consequences, but it means that the future repair becomes more expensive.
Yeah.
So yes, we need to just take it on board and decide, we trust this guy, this is the work that needs doing. The challenge now is how are we going to fund it, and we're going to have to think about ways that we can fund it.
Did I also hear though that you were going to try to put some prioritisation in as to what is really absolutely essential that we're very foolhardy not to do? Obviously everything's a risk, but which are the really big risks?
Well, you can do that for yourself, because when you look down and you see some of the works are decoration,
Yeah,
you can say we can postpone those,
Yes.
but others
With some of the
with
big-
cast iron gullies and roofs
Yeah,
and
if you don't
fire
do
and
that,
safety, So we trust this guy. He wouldn't put these things on.
Not for the fun of it.
oh no, I'm not being critical of that,
No.
please. All I'm saying
Yes.
is, if we're in a very tight year, that we ought to be clear that what the consequences are likely to be if we decide we will do B and C, but not A.
Yeah.
And that has to be an informed discussion.
That's fine.
And I'd like a
Yes.
little bit more detail if that is possible.
More detail than this? Okay.
No, your views
yeah.
as to what is absolutely.
Yes, so I can do it in a sort of
Okay.
red, amber.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just
That's
about-
yeah.
all I'm
So
looking for.
Yeah,
if you've got 60,000 to spend on here,
yes,
and in your purse you've got 30,000,
yes,
What are you gonna do?
what's the red item?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
all I'm looking for.
Okay.
Not,
Yes,
nothing,
no, I understand.
nothing more detail. No, you've done a lot of detail. There.
Yeah.
This is not the construction and buildings experts,
Yeah.
which are the ones that are really
Sure.
guide you.
I would just touch on one point. I won't take too long, but just an example, so you know where there's this guttering it's on the wrong angle. It's dropped that way. Should be flowing this, in the opposite direction. If you leave it, what happens? The water's already coming down. As you walk into the museum, you can see the wall's wet. The plaster comes off. Worse than that, if the water then gets into the electrics, the alarm system goes. The electrics need to be done, and before you know it, you're in 6,000-7,000 straight away.
Plus your conservation issues.
Exactly. So,
Okay, Julie, thank you ever so
No
much
worries.
for the report. I think we're all happy to note it, and it
and I
needs
think
to be brought forward
yeah,
in the correct manner, but certainly fed into the budgeting process as we go forward in the next couple of months.
yes.
Are you proposing notes?
I'm proposing noting it, and
Second.
everybody's.
So I'm just like to add, I've had an extremely comprehensive report,
Yes, very good.
but it shows you just what amount we've got because things were ignored in the past.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. We've received those. The next item on the agenda is to receive an update from the interim RFO about the budget setting process. Oh, is that, no, that's not, no, it's not, that's not the one.
That's all.
60.
60. That's it.
Sorry, this is about covering the quilted Cheviot report. So again, with this, I think this is going to come up in ST.
It's got to come up in STBF.
Yeah.
So notice. And
Okay. The next one is the partial exemption calculation report, where we seem to have had contradicting advice from some consultants.
And again, that will be coming up in STBF.
The next item is the presentation of the accounts, and there's an action on myself and the RFO to agree a clearer presentation of the accounts. That's ongoing. A report on the profitability of the markets, that's going to come in the future, and as will a report on whether to use interest-bearing accounts and to report on the problems with the computer software. So again, our thanks to the interim RFO. He's done a good report. The standard of reports from him are really good.
Yeah.
So if we're all happy to note that, I'm happy to propose.
Second.
Thank you very much. All green again. And then the next item is the report on the relationship between Sandwich Town Council and the Sandwich Toll Bridge Fund. Now, I apologise, an error on my part. In an earlier iteration of this agenda, I did say a verbal report, and I did strike through the attachment 6D. The report is due on the beginning of December. I'm working on a draft. We've got some 5 pages of a draft. I've had a meeting with the property manager. I've not had much response on the other work streams, but nevertheless, we'll be pressing ahead, and a draft report will be submitted to this committee for next month. This is a really important piece of work that we need to put some positive time aside to discuss, because it addresses many of the things that we've been talking about here tonight in terms of the assets and so forth. But that draft report will certainly be out for the November meeting, and hopefully we'll get some comments, and the final draft will go to the STC December meeting is the intention. Okay. The next item is the budget for next year, and we've got a report from the interim RFO to say that we've got a number of budget pro formas, and we'll discuss those in a minute. But basically the cycle is that these budget pro formas are due in today, and I think there's about a dozen of them in. Then there's going to be an internal consultation, and the first draft of the report will be available for the 19th for discussion by this committee, the 19th of November. We will then comment on that, and the second draft will come to us in December, and then it will go to full council for approval. So just so that everybody is clear on the timetable. Okay. So then, to update you on the requests that have been received so far, we've received, in summary, by today's deadline, a dozen do you want me to go through these in?
No,
No, but
we need some internal
discussions.
review of, it's not discussion, it's internal validation of those to enable them to come to the 19th of November discussion. So I think we'd start rehearsing the discussion that we need to have on the 19th of November.
Okay.
with not necessarily all of these.
Details.
Exactly.
Okay, but just so that people understand the magnitude of this, the total so far for Sandwich Town Council is 58,000. This is again additional to what the property manager's been talking about. So you can see another 60,000 really on another 20%. So we've already got a 40% challenge on the existing precept. Okay. So I'd just like everybody to accept that. Is there any questions on any of those?
I think the process is clear, so I'd like to propose that we note.
Okay. And that the process is clear, we're noting that, and we note that we've received a dozen requests so far, and these are going to go for further discussion to be brought forward next month.
Can I just ask a question of when that discussion is going to take place? Who is it? Is it public? Is it private?
It's public. It's
Oh,
19th of November, we've got F&GP, that's the first stage. It will have to go to STC in any case,
Right, okay.
with our recommendation.
But I think what Councillor Duke is talking about is a validation of the numbers that have been
yeah.
Just to
put
make sure
forward.
the forms are
Just
properly filled in.
the forms have been properly filled in, and
Makes sense.
you know,
Yeah.
there is whatever backup as again reasonably
Evidence
been
to
given
suggest that we have
to suggest that the cost
money
is
needed.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about eligibility.
Sorry?
It's about eligibility.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Just a general validation. Okay. So the next report then from the agenda item number 8 is the reserves update, and again we've received a good report from our interim RFO, which basically tells us that we've got an adequate reserves in place. So I would just propose that we note this report unless there's any comment.
I'm not entirely clear still. So where it started from was actually just us as a group having a clear view what the monetary amount was in terms of reserves we should have. What we have here is, don't worry, we're okay, but the range could be 3 to 6 months. So to me, I'm not okay. I still want to know that the reserve should be X, and the reserves are today Y, and then we know if there's a gap. Because again, that's another consideration for next year. So that's all I'm saying. It's a really good, detailed report, but it doesn't answer the exam question that I was looking for an answer on, which may be very simple. Maybe I'm being too simple. I just want to know that you need to have 100 grand in the bank in reserves, and you've actually got 80.
Right. Well, you know, I can give you the Sandwich Town Council as an entity turns over about just over, it gets 330,000 in the precept, and it picks up about another 100,000 all around the property and markets and various things. So the total turnover of Sandwich Town Council is just over 420,000. So if you want 3 months, right, that's a quarter of that. So that's just about 108,000, 106,000.
And our current reserve is around about 59,000, I think.
I haven't got the figures in front of me, but
It's certainly not that figure. I might be wrong, but it's certainly not that figure.
okay. Well, you know, that's without troubling the interim RFO.
It's not his issue, it's ours.
Sorry, I thought it should be judged against expenditure rather than income. But it shouldn't be matched anyway. So
Well, they are.
I'm comfortable with.
Yes.
I wouldn't have started from there, but I would probably arrive in the same place.
Right. So that's where we should be for 3 months. We should have just over 100,000.
So that's really helpful, because when we come to discuss on the 19th of November, we should explicitly decide whether we're comfortable with the reserve as it stands, versus a figure that for me is significantly above that. And that's a risk we then accept. So it's not to ignore it, it's to say it's a risk and we accept it, or we say actually no, we have to increase the reserve.
You know, you start on a multitude of issues here, because one of the things is what monies are ring fenced within the cash reserves held, because the cash reserves, as we know, have been inflated by Maddox. They're also inflated by other ring fenced amounts of money, but that's not kind of necessarily transparent.
Yeah. And how ring fenced is ring fenced.
Correct.
So for example, if a part of the building burns and we have money sitting in a HIP,
Yeah.
would it be still ring fenced if we needed money by midnight that day?
That's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so more work to be done, and it's for the budget consideration.
So what's the decision on that? You're not accepting the report, you're noting more work needs to be done.
Well, what we're saying, this is a statement, you know, which lays it out in the numbers that the interim RFO can actually see and compare and so forth. And so I believe his report to be right, so we should accept the report.
Okay.
I think there is further work for us to do and further considerations that have kind of raised out of this report. So I would propose that we accept the report and we recognise that further work needs to be done. And Councillor Wiles is seconding that,
I accept that.
and everybody's in agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So the next item on the agenda now becomes the updating the progress with the business plan. Does anybody in particular want to talk through this line by line, or is this just for general note? Any concerns, any comments?
I put this together, Chair, based on the previous document I think you did back in May.
Yeah.
Thereabout. So it's just really an update based on my discussions with the people who have ownership of these various items. Some things are happening, some are not, and I will be chasing. Yeah, just a note really.
Okay. All right. Councillor Wiles is proposing we note this progress on the business plan.
Yeah, so sorry, I was
Distracted.
I distracted myself.
May I call
It was my fault. No, my fault. So I just wonder, just to pick up on that, because it's important, because we have got business planning in place, which is important. We've done that, but the thing is not to let it slip. And I commend Councillor Wiles for doing what he's doing, but we need to bring that back, and that might be to STC rather than here, but it can be here. But we need to set a date when it comes back with those updates from the people we're talking to.
Yeah.
So we can say, actually, we've got some issues, or we haven't.
I think this goes through till May
Yes.
27, so I think every 3 months
Yeah.
we should bring it back to this committee and maybe to full council twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year, what I would say. So I would like to see that the full council, if we're meeting in December, that we have a report that's based on those conversations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's assuming we're meeting in December.
Okay, so what we're saying then is that we're noting this report, and we're thanking Councillor Wiles for taking the time and trouble to do this.
Yeah.
We're asking him to bring this report back to us every quarter and to take to Sandwich Town Council twice a year, and to seek updates from the various champions or responsibilities.
Yeah, so the STC in January.
That's the first quarter report will be in January, is it?
No, he's already doing on the quarter report now, but sorry, the half yearly.
Half yearly,
reports,
sorry.
STC.
I'm just trying to establish when the first quarter report's going to be. Go on.
First quarter, every
Quarter.
3 months. So
Definitely.
we're now October, so October, November, January,
Yeah,
December, January.
It's gone back a
So the
month.
January cycle for both FGP and STC.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Which is helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next item, which again I hope we can get through quickly because this item was taken to, we all studied this item the other Monday.
I'd like to propose we.
Yeah, we've spoke about this 3 times already now, so.
Yeah, we're going.
So,
That's how I feel.
Councillor Tuke has proposed,
Yeah,
Councillor Black has second, and we've all voted in favour.
On both recommendations.
Yeah.
of those
Yeah, thank you.
recommendations.
And it's good to see that the achievements out of the intention, and that's great. You know, the intention was put forward by you, and it's good to see that being realised, so, yeah.
Okay, the next item is a confidential matter, and
Chair.
I'd like to propose that we defer this until after the finance meeting, if everybody's would be happy
After
with that.
Tollbridge.
After the Tollbridge
Tollbridge
finance
finance
meeting, yes. Anybody happy to second
I'll
that?
say that.
Okay, everybody in favour? Lovely, thank you very much. So the last item then is the date of the next meeting, which will be the 19th of November, hopefully at 6:30. Thank you, everybody.
Would you?
The next meeting finished at 9:15.
8:15.
Quarter
Oh,
past
I
eight.
think we're going to be at 8:15, you've got nothing coming.